is up, everyone? Welcome to the CRE Arena. Today we have Rafael Mendez, newer advisor with us that has been absolutely crushing it. He's been in the game for a while, and once again, the goal of the CRE Arena is for the people on the podcast and also the people viewing it, that they would get value and become better in commercial real estate or take info from this podcast and be more successful in whatever they set out to do. So today we have Rafael, and like I said, he's on fire in the Orlando market. So Rafael, how are you, man?
I'm doing good, man. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it. Glad to be in the arena.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's I actually have the man on the arena quote on my wall, which is how I came up with the name of the podcast. And yeah, that was one of the things I was just like thinking of, because there's a lot of good commercial real estate podcasts out there, and obviously I didn't want to copy anybody's name, and I was looking around and I just like kind of staring off in the distance, and then saw the quote on my wall. But yeah,
that's actually.
Go ahead.
That's actually a really good quote. I remember seeing it a few times when I've been in your office.
Yeah,
I actually have that printed out on my desk here too.
Yeah, no, the Teddy Roosevelt quote is a good one, and I have it here in my office. I was going to put it somewhere in my house too, but it's probably a little intense for the home setting. I let my wife take care of I let her take care of the decorations there. Well, cool, man. Well, thanks for coming on today. And I think, just from what I know about you and your experience, and I think you can provide a ton of great value for people getting started. I know you have an interesting background with, coming from the residential side of the world. So, yeah, man, if you would just want to start out and, tell us kind of, where it all started and, where you're at today. And then also, where you were raised, where you're at now, and then also tell us a little bit. Man, you got a beautiful family, so yeah, mention them and just let everybody know more about you.
Awesome, man. Well, I appreciate the opportunity to share that. And I'm originally from South Florida. Family is Hispanic background, Cuban and Puerto Rican, and I grew up in Miami, but at 10 years old, my mom took a position with the U.S. government down in the Bahamas. So I lived overseas, for 6 years and got to get an eclectic education. Plus, the environment was more of international study. So, was mixing with people from all over the world, every single continent I had present in my classroom growing up. So it allowed me to have more of a diverse view. But my road to real estate, man, was not a straight one. This was actually a second career for me. I was in the health field. I used to work with chiropractors and physical therapists, doing sports massage. And when the market turned in like 08, 09, and, insurances were changing, I had to start really looking at, well, what am I going to do? Because I had to transition into the luxury side of doing massage therapy. And it was fun. Rewarding career, got a lot of crazy stories, probably not for this podcast, not for open ears, but I would say for me, I came to a crossroad in my life where I had to decide, hey, if I'm going to go back to college or, change career paths, and ran into a family member who recommended that I should get into real estate. And he specifically said commercial real estate. I didn't know anything about it, man. All I know is buildings, Yeah. And got involved with Keller Williams out in Lake Nona. So shout out to them. They're a really good office. They do a lot of residential deals there. And but there wasn't an opportunity for me to do commercial, which is what I got into real estate for. And so I went to another firm that was like a resi-commercial firm. They had more of a commercial presence. And so I got my first industrial listing there. And that was it. I got my first taste of blood, and, I was like a shark swimming in the water from there. And been doing commercial ever since. And that was in 2017 that I started really focusing on commercial. 2020, fast forward there, not the best time to completely leave residential and just focus on commercial. I joined a boutique firm out of Maitland. Great company, learned a lot while I was there. But then I had the opportunity to come to SBN and join this outfit. and have been growing ever since. Um,
Yeah.
as far as product types, I really like focusing on industrial and office space. And currently, right now, man, I'm excited for the new roles that I'm getting involved in here within the company. As well, this coming October, I'm sitting for my CCIM exam. Been working on that for a little bit over 2 years now to earn that designation and really get my stripes on my sleeve there. So, there's a lot there. I think I touched on real estate a lot. But family, wife, she's my high school sweetheart. We've been together since she snagged me up in our senior year. I wasn't expecting it, man. Yeah, she caught my eye, man, and we've been together ever since. We went to prom together, and we got 3 beautiful kids, Isaiah, Isabella, and Ezekiel, and they definitely keep us busy at times with all the activities that they've got going on.
Yeah, how old is Isaiah?
Isaiah just turned 16. So
I was gonna say, dude, I saw a picture of him the other day, and I was like, that looks exactly like you. Like he's a straight nose, and he's a big kid too, right? Like he's pretty.
Yeah. He's catching up to me. I'm the next one he's got to pass. He's already passed mom.
Yeah, that's one thing that I'm like kind of. I just don't know when that age is gonna be. Like I knew that turning point for me, like whenever, not to get too far off track, but like whenever I was like probably 14 or so, 14, 15, I was probably like about 6 foot. I started lifting weights for a couple of years, like getting into football. And then like, man, me and my dad got into it one time, and I remember kind of like sizing him up and was just like, like, you don't want it. That was the first time. And then I thought about it in my head, like, AJ's got a couple uncles that are like 6'3" and 6'4". So I thought of the day, I'm like, man, how old is he going to be when he can like size me up, and like he'll never be able to take me out. I can't let that go in my head. But when you start looking like eye to eye with your son, that's got to be a pretty intimidating thing. I didn't know you came from.
We are.
I didn't. Yeah, are you eye to eye?
Yeah, we're almost eye to eye, and we've had that discussion already. Like, and we wrestle and play around, but he knows who's the king of the jungle here.
That's what I'm saying, dude. You can never let that go, like until he's like got his own house, does his own thing, whatever. Like, but yeah, as long as he's in the house, you're just like, you're the king of the jungle. So that's hilarious. I didn't know you came from the. I didn't know you started in like massage therapy. I didn't know you did that like as a first career.
Yeah, man. I was doing that. So I started doing that in 2005. I went to school for that. Graduated in 2007 with an AS in health science. And it's funny, man. That's where my entrepreneurial, I've always been in business. And like, I started off, doing people's yards, or then doing random errands, watching people's kids, and then working different jobs or selling things, at a very young age, at like 10. But that's where my real entrepreneurial spirit even like kicked in, because when we went to college, my brother actually went there with me. He's a nurse now. He lives out in Auburndale. Yeah. But he and I, we got in, and the program, you had to get a certain number of hours to graduate with actual hands-on massage therapy. And interesting, like they only had one day for you to like get your hours. So we went in there, and bro, we turned that little rinky-dink school into a full-on business, to where they were taking credit cards, had a whole answering service. We had like 3 different shifts. Got to the point where it was like a full-fledged spa in there. And that was an exciting experience. But yeah, massage therapy, it's great for the body. I really enjoyed it. But unfortunately, when you're growing a family, it's not the most conducive for you to grow, especially when, you're getting, insurance is getting cut off, so they can't cover, what you're doing for a business. So.
Yeah. So nowadays, like, does your wife take advantage of that? Like, are you required to like give X number of massages per week, or is that like your get out of jail free card? Like, hey, I'll give you a massage tonight. Like, is she taking advantage of that perk?
She takes advantage of it. Definitely it's a get out of jail free card for me. I'm not giving as much massages now as I used to. My argument is like, hey, would you rather me do a massage or just do some commercial deals and pay for you to be at a spa the entire day? So she likes the latter part,
Yeah, because it was pretty funny though. We were actually sitting on the couch last night, and Brittany, my wife, looked at me and she said, and it's funny that we're talking about this today because she looked at me and said, she's like, you are absolutely perfect for me. But if there's one thing that I could change, it's that you would like giving massages. Because I really just don't like it. And honestly, like not to fully wimp out, but I like playing high school and college football and playing offensive line, like just shooting your hands constantly, banging them between helmets and stuff. My hands are just jacked. So like I said, not to wimp out too hard, but like within like 3 to 5 minutes, I'm just like, man, my hands hurt. Like there's just a lot of, I've had surgeries. There's just a lot of like tissue damage and ligaments and all that stuff in my hands. And so I try to use that. Yeah, I try to use that as like, hey, like to get out of jail, get out of it, like, get out of the massage. But then like she doesn't get a massage and I look like a wimp, so it's just like a double whammy. Like I don't win in either of those scenarios. So cool, man.
Good work around that is a technique called lomi lomi. So you mainly use forearms and elbows. And that way you relieve the pressure from your hands. I used to, whenever my hands hurt after 8 hours of massage, I would, start using the elbows and stuff.
Yeah.
YouTube a video, do a couple of practice sessions. You'll be good, man.
That's a pro tip. No, that's awesome. So how long? So from residential to commercial real estate, how long did you say you were in the residential side of the business before you fully transitioned to commercial?
So at the beginning, I was, I would say about a year and change, probably under a year and a half doing residential only. Mm-hmm. When I moved to the other firm, I would say from like 2017 to 2019, I was what we consider in the commercial world a resi-mercial agent, where I was doing more and more deals were starting to become commercial as I got more experience, but I was still doing residential. At the end of 2019, I was part of a firm in Claremont. It was before I joined the boutique firm. And I said, talked to my broker at the time, hey, look, next year, 2020, I am not doing anything residential. All I'm doing is commercial. Yeah. And she, at the time she was like, I don't think you should burn your boats. I'm like, no, I'm burning my boats. And so, left for, differences there, for business purposes, and went into the full service boutique brokerage. And I'm glad I made the move. I don't think it was the best year. It was, the pandemic rolled around in March and things got shut down for a while. People didn't know where things were going. Obviously, we all have seen and heard the headlines and seen how things progressed over the years. But I would say 2020 was the first full year of nothing but commercial. Closed a little bit over close to 20 deals that first year. And it was a mixture. It was a mixed bag. I had everything in there, right? Leases, landlord rep, tenant rep, buyers, investors, sellers, everything you can imagine, subleasing, and kind of doing a little bit of all the food groups. But I always stuck to the industrial and office side as my main focus group doing real estate. So
yeah, no, that's awesome. So how do you go from and I know you said you were like resi-mercial, so you're kind of dabbling before. So I assume you had a little bit of that built up, of a pipeline to close those 20 deals. But how do you go from half and half or more residential to closing 20 commercial deals in the first year? What do you attribute that to? Was that mainly working for sellers, working for buyers, doing leasing, and then how did you get there? What'd that look like?
Well, that's a great question, man. What I did is I leveraged if I had a listing, I made sure that every call that came in, I picked it up, because the one thing you're going to find out is a lot of times buyers in our industry don't have representation. And so I was okay with doing both sides of the deal at the time, because I didn't know better. And I just wanted to get experience, learn the contracts, the language, and really throw myself in there. So what I would do is, if somebody called me on one of my listings, I'd go over any information about the property. If it wasn't a fit, or even if it was a fit, I'd be sure to ask, like, hey, are you working with anybody? And the minute they told me no, I was like, all right, hound dog, I'm going to get you as my client. And, a lot of those I converted to buyers or tenants for buildings, even if it wasn't my listing, maybe it wasn't a fit for whatever reason. So it was leveraging that. And then when I completed a deal, I just went around that specific community of properties and just started advertising to them, like, hey, I just did this deal nearby. Is there anything that I can do to help you out? And so that brought on other opportunities for companies that were expanding, or companies or owners that were looking to sell or lease out any space that they had in the building.
Was that mainly when you were going around to those neighborhoods like that your listing was in, or you just did a deal in? Were you doing mostly, like, were you calling on those businesses? Were you door knocking? Like, what was the ratio there to, like, knocking on doors versus making cold calls?
I like to make things more efficient, so I made a lot of calls. I would say probably 85% of the time it was a call. If it was like an industrial listing, like, for example, in Orlando, there's this particular industrial park that I focus on, where I've done several deals on that street. I go personally and door knock because I want to introduce myself. Hey, look, here's another one. And it's usually followed with calls and some type of mailer with it. And so I did a little bit of both, but mostly making calls.
Yeah. No, so I didn't know you were on the Industrial Product Council call the other day with SVN. And when I was speaking on there, it was all about business development. And, kind of my main theme was like, hey, business development, because some people are like, hey, like doing the cold calls or doing the letters or, doing direct mail or email or, whatever. There's all the different methods. But I think, one of the biggest things, it's not like, hey, hit this really heavy and just go down this path. But because, just straight cold calls, and I mean, however you want to differentiate cold versus warm, whatever. But I mean, if you sold the property next door or down the street, like, sure, I guess you can still say it's a cold call, but it's a little bit warmer. Like, you all of a sudden, like, have something real, tangible, like something to say, like, hey, I just did this deal down the street. It sold for X. Do you know what your property's worth? Or, what's your strategy in this market? Whatever it is. So my main theme on the business development call with SVN was, the best way to get listings and drum up business is just by doing the things that we're supposed to be doing. So that can be, calls, that can be direct mail, it can be, handwritten letter, emails, whatever it is, door knocking. But I think, if you've been in the business for any time at all, more than a year or so, or 6 months, you kind of know the things that you're supposed to be doing to generate business. So, like, you get a new listing, you're supposed to go to talk to everybody in the neighborhood. Or if you sell the listing, whatever it is, because that gives you the ability to have that conversation with those owners and differentiate yourself. Because, a lot of the times, I mean, these owners are getting a lot of calls from a lot of different brokers, and these brokers are really just trying to drum up business and say, hey, do you want to sell? Or, hey, do you want to lease? When, if you've done something in their market, next door to them, whatever it is, and you're providing them value, that's a much, much better way to go about it. And all of a sudden, they want to talk to you, because you have something to give them, not just take, which is a lot of what it seems like, just straight cold calls are today, or what a lot of other firms seem like they're doing.
Yeah, I agree with that. You definitely have to bring value to the table. And just to circle back on what you were mentioning earlier, there is, it has to be a multi-pronged approach. If you've got a table with one leg and you break that leg, well, that table's not going to stand. But if you build a table with 1,000 legs, if you break one or two, doesn't really matter. You've got the support there to keep bringing into business. And not to say that you've got to do like every single thing, but whatever you do to build your business, whether you're going to incorporate social media, dialing for dollars, door knocking, mailers, whatever it is you're going to do, you have to do it consistently, right? You don't want to have a start-stop mentality with that. And, I can attest, one of the deals that we were talking about earlier, that, I was sharing with you before our call, I called the guy just to introduce myself and say, hey, this is who I am. This is our firm. We're actually putting our flag here. And, just wanted to see if there's anything that I can do to help you, whether it's something real estate related, or do you need a vendor, because I've been doing business here for a while, so I might be able to, help you out. And the guy's like, well, it's funny. I get all these brokers calling me saying they want to, give me an opinion of value, and nobody ever has done it. Like, they say they're going to do it and they never call me back. And I'm like, okay, I'll give you a call back. Called him back 2 days later, and now he wants to really factor in the numbers and really see the picture. But, it came from, hey, this is who I am. Is there anything I can do to help you? Not even, are you thinking about selling? Obviously, that question would have come up at the end, like, hey, have you had any thoughts? But really the initial call was, what can I do to help, man? That's what we're here for. Quote from Muhammad Ali, he said, our service to others is our rent for our time here on earth. So, if you're not living your life to, serve others, I'm not saying you got to, make yourself an indentured servant, but if you're going to be living here on earth, how are we going to help each other? How are we going to cooperate? And it can't just be all about what you're going to get. You've got to give something up as well. So,
yeah. No, that's really cool, man. I think that's a really good point, and just kind of, fixing the perspective on, how the relationship is supposed to work, because, there's been so many deals where they've just been so incredibly fulfilling in a sense of like, the people retiring on closing day, or they've built a business, built a property, and they have a long history in it. And, it's sometimes an emotional thing for people. And, it's a big milestone in their life. Maybe it's like I said, a family business that they're retiring, or it's like an investor that's building wealth. A lot of those are really big things in people's lives. And, these transactions, I think sometimes it's like, hey, if you do 20, 30, 50 deals a year, whatever it is, you can not get numb to it, but, sometimes there's a sense of like you could lose the value or the importance of like what it is to the client. So, always remembering that, and just like saying, hey, whatever transaction you're working on, or just the person you're, cold calling, it's like, hey, while it's a, quick, easy, simple question, or just another dial for one of us, it's like, if for somebody to open up about selling their property, it's like, this might be their baby. Their parents might have given this to them, or they worked, 10 years, 20 years to save up and buy this building, whatever it is. It's usually a big deal for a lot of people. So I think, kind of having that relationship and that mindset going in is something in all sales roles. In all sales roles, you can never make it about yourself. It's always about service to the client. And one thing Solomon Paretsky, I heard on a call very early on when I started with SVN, he's like, he was doing like some cold call training and stuff. And one thing he said was, when you're on the phone and you're talking to people, what did he say? He said, the one thing, he's like, you absolutely don't want to have is commission breath. He's like, commission breath stinks and they can smell it every single time. And like, I thought about it, because if you think about, how your conversation would go, and like your conversation is all, you ask question after question after question, and say those questions are all like pointing to like, hey, do you want to sell? Can you sell? Will you sell? Or, how can we do a transaction here? When it's like, it goes so much deeper than that, and these are real people on the other line. So, and it's their, businesses, their families, like I said, the wealth they've built for themselves. So it's a pretty serious matter that I think, sometimes, it can get lost. It can get lost, and the people that are either new to the game or just kind of in it for themselves, that I don't think they succeed with those calls, because, like I said, people can smell out the commission breath for sure.
Yeah, they'll smell it all right. And obviously if you're getting into this business, it's one of those businesses where it's like you eat what you kill. You got to get out there. You got to hit the pavement. Every day we're unemployed. And so
That's
it
funny.
can be easy to fall into that
Yeah.
world. But if you're looking to do the right things for your client, and you do that enough times, it's gonna pay off dividends. I can't tell
Yeah.
you how many clients, number one, began a cold relationship. We didn't know each other from Adam, and I had several clients that were at different family functions. Like it was just more than the deal. It became like friendships, or you start to learn about their families or their children, and if you're just looking at it as a deal, yeah, you can be successful doing that, but you're not going to be fulfilled. And that's another part of your business. Like the reason why we're in business, any business you do, any endeavor is, there's some type of fulfillment you're seeking in life. And if you're just focused on the numbers all the time, yeah, there are people that are successful like that, but how happy, how content are they with their life? At the end of the day, when they look at themselves in the mirror, are they truly fulfilled? So, I
Yeah.
mean, we can go into a whole different world with that, but
Yeah, no, I think that's a really good point. And one thing you said previously was like doing things consistently, and whether that's prospecting, whatever it is, doing things consistently in order to to drum up business. And I think that's one of the biggest things. Is like, hey, if you're just doing this to get a paycheck, like you're not going to do those things consistently because you don't love it, you don't like it, you don't have a
yeah,
passion for it. But if you're here to like serve people, seek after their own best interest and what's going on in the market and present, potentially put together a really good opportunity for somebody, then like, hey, if that's like why you're doing this, then that's something you can do over and over again and for a consistent period of time. I heard a quote the other day and I forgot where I heard it, but it was that, I think so. It was along the lines that, I think so often, somebody will try something for, a few weeks or a couple months and they make cold calls for, 2 months and they're like, say they do 5, 6 weeks of cold calls and they've put in, close to 1,000 calls and they're like, this isn't working, like this isn't working. I'm not doing it. Like, I knew cold calling was stupid. I hate it. And, it's just a numbers game. And I think, the quote was along the lines of, not doing something new, but just doing something more or enough of what you've already been doing, which is, really goes back to the consistency component of it. So, the cold calls, the door knocking, the BOVs, and, the conferences, all of these things, like these are all the right things to do to drum up business. You just have to do them consistently. So, I think, some people will get on a tangent of like, hey, I want to do this new initiative, or I'm only going to do like social media and I'm going to go, 2 feet in, all social media. That's all I'm going to do. And it's like, they want to go down this new venture. It's like, hey, you need to do all these things consistently, in order to fill the pipeline and continue to do deals. So, I think that's a distraction for us all, I think, because I always want to try new and exciting and different and kind of venture down a different path and, pioneer a new way of like, hey, I want to
yeah,
try this. And that's some of the entrepreneurial fun of the business. But at the same time, it's like, man, that boring work, that hard work is like, that's what makes the business come to life and keeps the pipeline full. So it's a discipline factor that you have to continuously do those things while not getting too sidetracked or going too far down a different direction. But like I said, I think there's a balance of doing what you're supposed to do and then trying new things. And so that's just a part of the entrepreneurial fun in the business, at least I think. So
no, that's
well,
that's 100% on the money, man.
yeah,
Easily you can get distracted by all the silver bullets and the shiny objects. And there is no silver bullet. There are no shiny objects. It's roll your sleeves up and put your head down, do the work. And it's not sexy. It's not fun
hmm
all the time. The real work that leads to the fun parts. But if you do those things consistently, it's going to pay off at the end.
yeah, and it's so good to hear you say that, dude, because like I remember, when you first got started with SVN, we jumped on a couple calls and, I think we were still like shut down ish, There wasn't a lot going on in the economy, and people were still kind of bunkered up at home. And you were newer to SVN, and you had the same attitude about you. You're just like, hey man, I'm like, I'm plugging away from home. Like I got my office here, and I'm gonna make the calls and go see the properties I can, and just start putting in work, to start putting in numbers. And to see that you still have that same tenacity, that's the consistency component, and that's you know what it takes to be successful in the business, which is why great things are happening. Which that leads me to my next point. So, the Orlando office, SVN moving into Orlando. Man, tell me about that. Tell me how that got started. I know you're in that market, and headquarters is here in Lakeland, but I mean it was only a matter of time. And I think we were just waiting for the right piece to the puzzle to get into Orlando. And I think everybody at SVN is convinced that you're the right piece to that puzzle. And I know I've been a big cheerleader of yours. So, man, tell us about what's going on in Orlando, and what are some of the plans there? You told me you were going to pick up keys today and decals, and it's happening.
Yeah. I mean, it's happening fast. So just to kind of go back, when I was joining SVN back in 2021, I had talked to Jonathan a while before that, and I asked him specifically, like, hey, what's your plan for Orlando? Because you guys are in Lakeland, people are going to see that in my email signature. And he's like, oh, no worries, man. We're going to get something in Orlando soon. I know that there was a couple of times when I would stop by Lakeland, I would, ring up your ear like, hey, man, I'm just waiting for this office, right? So maybe about 3 months ago, actually less than that, Jonathan said, hey, it's real now. We're getting ready to go with an office, but there's a proposal. I'm like, all right, tell me about it. What's up? What do we need to do? He said, we want to see if you could be the managing director. If you'd be interested in the opportunity. And I'm like, what? So it came out of left field. Wasn't expecting that. But it kind of lends to what I've been doing my entire life. Even going back to when I was doing massage therapy, I always was in a position of leadership, where I was leading either a group of people or a small number of teams, to like make them better, right? And get better at their craft. And so this position, it's kind of like being a broker within the brokerage, and having a voice and being a supporting cast and building a team. So, there's going to come, with a lot of responsibility, and I'm excited for it. I'm actually thrilled to have this opportunity, but also not only thrilled to have the opportunity, but I can't find the word right now. I'm a little speechless. But in essence, since I wasn't expecting it, and I didn't know that there was that much belief in me, it's just encouraging to have that behind me. Like, wow, all these people, believe in me. Gary, Dean, Todd, yourself, Jonathan, Tyler. And so when I met with Tyler and Jonathan about it, for those that don't know, Jonathan Barreras, he's the managing director and COO of our office in Lakeland, and Tyler is the CFO of the company. Man, those guys are sharp, and they sat down with me and we were talking about it, and the vision is huge. Where we're planning to take this for the next 5-10 years. I'm excited to be on that journey with this great company. I mean, SVN as a global company is great, but Saunders, Ralston, Dantzler, I mean, for those of you that are in the commercial real estate world, Dean, Gary and Todd, and obviously SVN. But for those that don't know, this is like a family. And, obviously families have differences, but we're an eclectic bunch of people, and we love, what we do. And I'm excited to bring that brand to Orlando, because I know we're gonna leave a big mark there and take over, man.
Yeah, no, I love it, man. I love the move to Orlando. Obviously, it's a huge market. There's a lot of opportunity, and having you as the managing director, I think that's going to be huge. That's huge for that office, and what an opportunity, because as we were talking about before, is like serving other people, serving and impacting other people. Now all of a sudden, your role was focused on, serving, property owners, landlords, businesses, tenants, people in the commercial real estate world from a ownership or that are in these buildings. But now it's like, man, who is the marketing director, who's going to be who's going to be the associate advisor, the junior brokers, like who's going to do the research and analysis, and what other young brokers are going to come beneath you to go crush it in the Orlando market, which is like you said, a big responsibility, but it's just an even bigger opportunity. And I think you're a similar type of guy as me, where I'm always much more excited about the opportunity than the fear of failure. So
Yeah.
especially with a good brand and a team behind you, when you look at these things like, hey, we got these big plans for 5 or 10 years, and there's always the opportunity to do well or to fail, but man, that excitement for success is just way surpasses the fear of failure. And I think that something I try and preach to my kids, and like a lot of things in life, you want to do this or do that or try new things, whatever it is, the excitement of winning, that's one of the big reasons why we play the game. But oftentimes, I think, in culture and society, people can be paralyzed by the fear of failing. So, but just knowing that, I've been thinking about this a lot lately with, the launch of CRE Academy, was like, man, my wife and my kids, they're proud of me, and they're cheering me on. And I know a lot of other people are as well, but I was just like, they're proud of me. And I know the kids are proud to call me dad, and my wife's proud to have me as a husband. So I'm just grateful for that, so I can go and do all these things, and, this business, this investment, broker these deals, whatever it is, and, grow the business. But man, win, lose or draw, I know they're going to be there right by my side, and I know a lot of other people are as well. So, I think, for you moving to Orlando, it's and for your kids to see, for your family to see, it's just man, you're a leader. And you have a great responsibility, but an even bigger opportunity to go win. So man, I'm really excited for you in that.
Well, touching on two things, the number one, the family component, that opportunity right there is huge, because when I announced it to them, man, my kids were over here at the dinner table, just, cheering me on and dancing around the table, oh my gosh, and especially my oldest, because he at some point plans on getting into commercial real estate. And, and so when I let him know what the role is, he was like, oh wow, so that means I can work with you one day, and so he was hype about it. And I said, yeah, man, but I'm going to be on your behind, but, so that's exciting, and yeah, we can achieve all these things, but the people that we matter to the most, when you're seeing their smiles on their face, or they're, encouraging you, or when they talk to their friends or anybody that they know, and they're speaking highly of you, that means a lot more than, closing a deal. Doesn't matter the size. I mean, money comes and goes, right? But, the experiences with your family, your friends, those things, you can't replace it. And so everybody I've told about it has been super hype. Man, I'm glad for you. So that stuff really feels good. The other part of the service, one of the reasons I really took on this role is, I'm not as entrepreneur as you when it came to creating the CRE arena, right? And the academy that you've got going on. But one of the things that I thought about is, man, there's not a lot of training. And there's a lot of brokers or advisors, agents that were or are in the same position as I was, coming from residential into commercial. And that transition is not easy. The roadmap is not clear. You've got to find your way into circles within circles to get the information. And a lot of people keep the stuff close to their vest. When it comes to this business, and rightfully so. I mean, it's a little bit challenging, but I don't come from a lack mindset. I prefer an abundant mindset. And any advisor that we bring on, not trying to pitch here, but obviously our company is invested in you, but I'm going to be invested because I want to see the success, not only for the office and for the company, but for that individual that comes on. Because I've been in offices where the culture is not good, and I don't want that. I don't want that in our industry. I think that we can do better in our industry, and I think that there's a lot of potential for success. The business is unlimited in our world. And for those that want to like reach beyond the stars, like, hey, if you're willing to work hard, I'm going to work hard behind you and make sure that you've got the right pieces in place to help you succeed. And I'm excited for that, because that transformation is going to happen, by us implementing all of the systems and strategies, and just seeing those people succeed in their life. That's going to bring another level of fulfillment. I'm excited for.
Yeah, for sure. And I don't know if you know this or not, but the whole reason I started CRE Academy was to impact people, and specifically to impact people the way that commercial real estate has impacted me. So, you are now in the position that a, Dean, Gary, or Todd would be in from a managing director standpoint, and, bringing people underneath you and building a team in the Orlando office. So, that's what I knew before I started CRE Academy, is like, man, the way that this, the team at SVN has impacted me, and, what commercial real estate has done for me, my family, my community, just my life. It's been, incredible, and something I'm just forever grateful for. So, I was really praying at the beginning of the year and just thinking through like, hey, what does this year look like? What does it entail? And impacting people was at the very top of my list. And, you mentioned the SVN, culture and family component. I very quickly told myself, I don't want to be anywhere else, because, I think that's probably the most natural step for, advisors that have done really well, is to go start their own brokerage. And I said, like, man, I'm loyal to the team at SVN. And, what they've done for me here is just, I can't be grateful enough. And also, like, the culture of the SVN Global Network, just the brand worldwide, there's just nothing else like it. So, I know that for a fact, when you just go to the conferences and meet all the people and talk to, anybody across the country within SVN, I knew that I didn't want to be anywhere else, which is like, so because that was the first thing, like I said, probably the most natural step for advisors that do well is to go start a brokerage. And I said, like, hey man, I don't want to do that. And I think CRE Academy is an avenue for me to, impact people in a major way through commercial real estate. So it checks all the boxes. And like I said, the most important is impacting people. So something I'm really excited for. And man, we both have good responsibility and good opportunities on our hands, and incredibly excited for the Orlando office. So and man, anything else? So like,
man.
Yeah, no, I'm like I said, biggest cheerleader since day one. I knew you were going to do well in this business. I actually mentioned this on the podcast with Cleveland, down in South Florida, and similar to him as it was to you, JB asked me, what I thought about you when you first came on, and the first thing I did a little research on you, and I think I just saw your picture and I saw that you had 3 kids. And I think I told you this, but I told JB, I was like, dude, this guy can't suck, like he's got mouths to feed, like a lot of them, he's got a family. So like he doesn't have another choice but to do well. So, which there's something else to be said about that. But yeah, from the get go, man, I've been a big cheerleader of yours. So yeah, man, really excited for you and your growth, and, with an SVN in the Orlando office. So, really pumped for that, man. So anything else before we go, man? Anything else you want to drop on the podcast, or questions, insights to any of the listeners? Anything before we get out of here?
Well, there's been a lot about me here. The only question I have for you, and before I ask it, thanks for the support and just the opportunity to be here with you and share this time. Yeah. But if you can talk to the younger Augie, what is the 1 or 2 pieces of advice you would give yourself?
Yeah. If I could go back and talk to the younger Augie, I think there's a lot of stuff I would say. I did a lot wrong. It depends on how far we go back, because
Yeah.
I've had some pretty serious. I would have some pretty serious conversations with 14 and 15-year-old Augie. But I think business world Augie there was a couple things I did well and a couple things that I almost did wrong. So one of the things that happened and was really good for me was coming to work for a commercial real estate firm out of college, because if you're entrepreneurial and ambitious, so like I said, this is me telling myself, but like just solidifying this. And what I would want the younger generation to hear is, when I came to work for a commercial real estate firm out of college, some of my more like entrepreneurial, business-minded friends were like, "What are you doing, dude?" Like, because I went to work at like an hourly job in a research role, and it wasn't a lot of money. So, a lot of my like friends are like, "What are you thinking, dude? Like, you're not going to go start a business? You're not going to go crush it here or do this or do that?" And I was just like, "No, dude, I like really feel called to like be in commercial real estate. I think the industry is incredibly exciting, and I got this job opportunity, so that's what I'm gonna do." And I got some heat for that, like with my like kind of closer friend group, and mainly the one that we don't talk much anymore. I don't know if that has anything to do with it or not, but so me kind of taking the back seat and going and learning from somebody like Dean, Gary, and Todd that they've been in the business for a really long time. They have developed me over the years, and just been a big advocate for my success and poured a lot into me. So, and then also it's a good brand to associate yourself with and also leverage in order to get trained, get educated, know the market, and start building the systems and processes to do deals. So, but that first 2 or 3 years, I was riding in the back seat and just I was just learning. I just took like I said, I took an hourly wage job with a master's degree, and that didn't exactly line up to a master's degree pay. So, I just held on and knew I wanted to be in the industry. So, if you're coming out of college or high school, whatever it is, I think if you want to be in an industry, the best thing you can do is to go learn from the best. That's no matter what the pay is. If you have an opportunity to go learn from some of the best, then take it, whatever you got to do. So that's one of the things that I am just really grateful for. And it's like I said, I would just kind of solidify that as my younger self, like, hey, that was a good decision. One area I almost, like, right at the end of that too, one of the areas that almost went bad was when I made the transition from an hourly job to full-time sales. And, the guys here at the firm kind of like pushed me off the edge a little bit of like, hey, we think you should go full-time sales. Like, we know it's time for you. And, I was going through a rough time in like my personal life. Like I said, hadn't made a lot of money at all. And, I gave myself to, it was like November or December, and I gave myself to like March to close a deal. I didn't give myself that. My bank account gave myself that. My bank account said, "Hey, you're out of money in March." So November, December is when I made the decision to. It might have been before that, and I've been like doing sales and trying to make sales and calls and do BOVs and all those things for the previous 12, 18 months before this. But probably 6 months before is when I said, hey, if I don't close anything by March, like, I have to go find a job. I have to go, do something. So I had one eye on Indeed looking for jobs and one eye on commercial real estate, and said, I'm going to go all in. And, so I don't know. I mean, thank God that I did close a deal in February, and that extended me a little bit further. But I don't want to say I almost gave up, but I almost like ran out of time, or I almost like didn't make it. It was literally a 1 month, 1 month window of me closing a deal versus running out of money. So I can only imagine, what would have happened if in November, December, I said, yeah, this isn't going to work out. I got a little bit of money left. Let me just go work, let me just go find a different corporate job in real estate or something like that. So, going all in was big for me, and something that almost went wrong. So, if I could tell my younger self something, it's that, hey, taking the back seat is a good thing to do, and eating some humble pie and learning from people that are really good. And then also, just don't give up, and find a way to make it work. And I think through faith and hard work, that was kind of my mantra. That's always just kind of been my deal. And that's really like deep diving into that during that time. My faith and hard work is what got me where I am today. So, for the young people, I think focusing on that, and being humble, staying faithful, and working your tail off. It's that's my equation. So at least to where I am today. Like I said, definitely don't have all the answers, but if that could provide any value to anybody, that's what it is for me. And I'll flip the script though. It's not fair. What about for you?
I would say I agree with the humbleness, right? Man, I wasn't expecting you to kick it back to me. I
wasn't expecting it the first time either, so it's only fair. So,
so I would say early on when I was graduating high school, I really didn't know what I wanted to do, right? Because we had just moved back to the U.S. and I really didn't have to go back to high school because I had enough credits to graduate. They were going to give me a degree in the first semester of my diploma in the first semester of my junior year. They said, Ralph, you've got everything. You don't even need to go to class. You can graduate right now, is what the lady told me. And so I said, no, I'll go to school. So I didn't really know what I wanted. But when my mom was buying her house, I sat at the closing there, and I didn't know it then, but I said, before she signed, I said, let me read that document. And I started reading, and the guy at the title office is looking at me like, who's this little 15-year-old? What does he think he's going to say, right?
Yeah.
But then a few years later, my mom decided to sell that house because the market was doing well, and she was getting remarried, and there was going to be no need for that house. And the broker there, she told me, Ralph, you should get into real estate. And I was at that age, at 18 years old, I'm like, nah, I'm good. I'm gonna do whatever I want to do, right? I wasn't quick to listen. So I think, pay attention when people are giving you advice and they're coming from a good place. Listen to it. Obviously take it, review it, and see how you can apply it. Because I didn't do that. And had I got into real estate at 18, man, who knows where my life would be right now, right? Like, there are so many different market cycles from that point till now. But, I probably would have been in this world a lot longer and more fulfilled because I enjoy this industry a lot and didn't know anything about it. But I would tell my younger self, man, slow down, listen, and not everybody has the right advice for you. But the people that are doing things right and they're trying to give you advice, listen to it because more often than not, they're going to be right. That's what I would tell myself, man.
Yeah, and that's a good one, man. And I'm gonna steal that. One thing that I have, I've made mistakes by going too fast. So to tack back on, I promise I won't kick it back to you again. But to steal one of yours, man, is I've made mistakes by going too fast. Because I'm very, driven and ambitious. And, as we talked about earlier, like, hey, when you're young and hungry and, trying to put food on the table or trying to drum up business, you feel this like pressure. So, but in the commercial real estate world, it's like, you're dealing with people's lives and people's properties, and there's a lot at stake. So, especially when you're young and getting started, it's like you can't let those things affect, the decisions you're making and advising other people, for. So, not moving too fast and slowing down and just being a little bit more calculated. I think even when times are exciting and deals are flowing and things are going great, that is one thing I'd tell my younger self is, hey, be more calculated, ask more questions to older people, and just learn more. And going a little bit slower isn't necessarily a bad thing because when you go fast, you can make mistakes, which I've definitely made some mistakes. So, Yeah, that's one thing there. Well, no, that's really good, man. And I thought this was really good. I really appreciate you coming on. And man, where can people find you? Where can people can check you out on social media, or other than to look out for, you know, the newest and best office in Orlando? You know, where can people find you?
So online, all my social media handles for everything, that from Twitter to, which I don't use Twitter much, but Instagram, LinkedIn. If you just type at Rafael Mendez, CRE, you're going to find my profiles everywhere. And then, you know, you can reach me directly. I don't know if I can give my number out. 407-748-8970.
You like
you know,
Mike
I don't
Jones,
keep
dude.
nothing. Yeah. I'm not afraid to share in any way that I can help impact somebody's life. And, you know, whether it's to be in commercial real estate or just do something different, just reach out. I'm here to help, man.
Yeah, you're going to be giving tips on being a managing director here real soon. So, yeah, awesome, man. Well, really appreciate you coming on, and hope you have a great rest of your day.
Awesome. You do the same, Augie. Thanks for having me.
All right, brother. Talk soon.
Talk to you soon.